Hello dear students, welcome to a new TV lesson of English designed for the 4th form students. I'm deliberately not going to mention the topic of our lesson today, as I'd like you to discover it by yourselves. It won't be that difficult if you focus on the following pictures and the words below, student, teacher. Then you can deduce that our lesson today deals with something or a subject related to education. Look at the following words: school, electronic, classroom, online, distance, education, virtual. What you have to do is to try to find two categories or two groups in which we can categorize these words. For example, we have the group related to education, such as classroom, school, and we have another group related to computer, like electronic, online, and here I'd like you then to try to combine words from the first group with another word, with other words from the second group, to find some collocations. And what do I mean by collocations? Which means try to find words that collocate, and let's discover what it means. We just click on the word collocate, and we find to collocate words, for example, be regularly used together in a language. To combine, for example, school collocates with room, and rules, it collocates also with teacher and maid. Collocation is a noun, and it's a regular combination of words, and then we get school days and school teacher as collocations. Right. Maybe you've heard a lot these days about the first collocation, which is virtual school. In addition to virtual school, we can find many concepts related to this networking learning environment, such as electronic education, electronic classroom, electronic college, electronic campus. We can find also the collocation online education and distance education. Now, distance education is the oldest of these concepts, as it has an attribute, negative attribute attached to it, as it focuses on the distance between the teacher and the learner rather than on the means of channels of communication. Well, now if you look at the picture, can you deduce what we mean by online learning or virtual school? As you can see here, we have an interrelated relationship here between the student and the computer, and there is non-line communication, and we have a hand that is texting maybe a question or a message, and a head which is ready to receive knowledge directly through the net. Now, can you provide another label for the picture? For example, we can say cyber learning or the knowledge net. And this is a new environment of learning if we compare it to the traditional learning environment, where we have a closed space and in a classroom which is isolated from the outside society. Well, I'd like you to use these collocations to find sentences and not only to label, to find a new title. And before we start, let's have an example. And in this sentence, for example, in English, virtual generally means something that does exist. As you can see, we have different words that compose this sentence, and they are arranged in a way that allows us to get a coherent and correct sentence. In this sentence, we can find nouns, such as school, and such as something, for example, we can find verbs exist, we can find adjectives, adverbials, articles, prepositions like in, pronouns, auxiliaries, and many other components. Now, if we want to find another sentence, try to write other sentences. For example, virtual schools are used to prepare students for their exams. In this sentence, we have many nouns. Yeah, we can find the noun school, we can find the noun exams, students, and as an example of verbs, we can find use, prepare, and we can find also prepositions like in or for, and pronouns like there. Some of the frequently asked questions concerning virtual school are: can I join virtual schools? Do I need special equipment? Is it limited to a specific age? Does it substitute traditional education? Well, to discover more about virtual schools and try to do the following set of exercises in order to have more details and more information. So, the first exercise is as follows. Put the words in parentheses in the right form or tense. You are going to try with the auxiliary to be and combine it with the verb plus ing. And when I say ing, which means I'm speaking about progression. Now, to be plus verb ing, we get the progressive. And to be in the present plus verb ing, we get the present progressive. For example, you are watching a lesson now. Now, if I want to change this first tense into another tense in the past, which means I'm going to focus on the auxiliary to be in the past plus verb plus ing to get the following example. I was watching TV when my father came. Was watching TV, here is the past progressive. Now, if I have another combination, the auxiliary have plus past participle, and when I speak about past participle, which means you can find a list in the end of your textbook, a list of irregular verbs, or you can just add ed to the regular verbs like watched. And the first sentence, the first tense that we can find is in the present perfect. For example, he has worked in virtual school for 10 years. So, has plus past participle worked. Another example here is, I had studied in London for 3 years before I moved to France. But had studied here is in the past perfect, as I have had, which means the auxiliary have in the past plus past participle. Now, pay attention. If I combine to be with the past participle, this part, I can get a different result, which means I get the passive, and the passive here is a form and not a tense. So, to be plus past participle, and I get passive, which means, for example, the email is sent by my friend. Now, is to be in the present plus past participle by my friend. And pay attention, sometimes you are asked to put the words in the right tense and form at the same time. For example, if I take the word send, the verb to send, and I want to speak about the email which was sent by my friend, which means I have to change the tense of the sentence, and I get the email to be in the past, was, plus past participle, which means the passive form, and I get another tense that is the passive as a form and the tense is in the past. I give another sentence. He was educated at virtual school. Now, you can guess that this sentence is in the past and in the passive form. So, now that the difference is clear, I'd like you to put the words in parentheses in the right form. The sentence is, virtual school is a logical, and the verb that we have here is extend, of the use of computers in, and the second verb is to teach. Now, virtual school is a logical. When I say logical, this is an adjective, and here we have an article, so I need a noun. Which means a, and the noun, the derivation of the word extend as a noun is the following, a logical extension, by adding the following suffix. Now, for the second verb, the extension of the use of computers in, we use computer in. Normally, we should add here a noun to get the word in teaching. And the sentence here that we have, now it's correct and the words are in the right form. Virtual school is a logical extension of the use of computers in teaching. Now, in this question, you have to put the words in parentheses in the right tense. This is another activity. In the 1980s, several futurologists and the verb to predict that the position of schools would change so that instead of schools, part of the studying, and the second verb is to take place, at home with the aid of interactive video recordings, computer systems, and multilateral information nets. Now, focus on the first verb, that is to predict. Now, I have to refer to a specific point or a hint to decide the tense of this verb. And the reference here, yes, is that in 1980s, which is a definite point in the past, which means I'm going to use the simple past. Predict is a regular verb, so I just add ed. And for the second tense, part of the studying, I have to refer in my decision of the tense that I'm going to choose here to refer to a previous verb, which is would change. And since I spoke about futurologists, which means they are going to predict something that's going to take place in the future. But pay attention, if I speak about the future, it's not necessarily something related to the present time, which means, for example, if I say 1980 and I speak about the future, which means something that's going to take place in this part, but it can be limited to a tense or period of time that is before 2008, because as 2008 as what the futurologists predicted happened before 2008, which means we are going to use the same tense, which means something that represents the future if we compare it to 1980, but also represents the past if we compare it to the point of time in the present, which means 2008. And this is what we call the conditional. Right, let's move to another activity. Combine the following two sentences in only one coherent sentence. And the sentence here is, the most famous experiment is England's Open University system. Now, I have another sentence. England's Open University system has operated for over 20 years. Here we notice that there is a repetition of this part. Now, I'd like to avoid this repetition, and also I'd like to insert this part in the first sentence, keeping, of course, the meaning clear, and at the same time getting a correct sentence and correct arrangement of words, which means I'm going to need a relative clause to post-modify this part, Open University system, and a relative pronoun to replace the repetition here. And since I speak about a thing, you can deduce that you cannot use who or whose, but I'd rather use which is used to refer to something, to a thing, or I can use also that. And finally, I get the following sentence. The most famous experiment in England's Open University system, can you deduce? Okay, yes, that's true, which has operated for over 20 years. Right. I hope you've got a clear idea now about virtual school, but is it completely different from the traditional system of education, or is there any similarity between them? Let's discover together. In the traditional tree of knowledge, whose trunk is thick and full and tall, branches dense and reaching towards the crown, and whose here, of course, refers to the tree of knowledge. In this tree of knowledge, we have a trunk that's thick and tall, like this one. And we have branches here, and everyone has to climb the same trunk. Now, if we speak about a trunk and we speak about branches, we can say, but then professional interest leads people to smaller branches. And finally, the tree model illustrates the acquisition of a wide general knowledge that takes years to achieve. I'm not going to explain more because I'd like you to answer the first question. What does the tree stand for? Pay attention. We speak about tree of knowledge. We speak about the same trunk and branches. You can deduce that here we speak about, if I say knowledge, then we speak about the education system. Okay, right. The education system here, there is another question, for example, what does the writer mean by saying climb the same trunk? If you compare it with speaking about education system and climbing the same trunk, which means, can you think about it? Right, which means, of course, we are going to start from the same point and, for example, follow the first part of education system, which means start with primary school in Tunisia and then go basic school, and then we move to the secondary school until we get the back exam, for example. Right. Leads people to smaller branches. What does it mean by that? If we speak about smaller branches, which means we speak about specializing in different branches, or it depends on the decision, on your choice, which means which branch you are going to follow, arts, science, and it depends also on the professional future, for example, what you are going to want, what you want to be in the future. Right. What do we call this figurative language? Where we compare two things, we try to combine two things which are normally not combined, or we don't have a similarity in reality. For example, here we have a metaphor. Can we speak of the net metaphor? Yes, we can. And this is a paragraph here written by Teller in 1994. Nowadays, the tree model has been largely replaced by the metaphor of the net and the network. There are no clear, you can guess there is a word missing here, or ending point in a network. Everyone can start in their own net node and there is another word missing, in whatever direction, as far as they please. In the nodes of the net surface, the information potential they contain is multiplied. So 3 missing words and 4 suggestions. What you have to do, of course, is to fill in the blanks with the right words from the list. The first one, we have, of course, when you have a paragraph like this, we have to read the whole paragraph as I've done here. And of course, then you are not going to focus only on the word itself, because this may be misleading and you may make mistakes. Now, you have to look at the whole paragraph and what comes before the word and what comes after the word to decide. It's like just like a chess game. It's like a puzzle. When I have a puzzle, which means I'm going to look at the whole picture and focus on the color in the missing part, and focus also on the edges and if it fits the place. Now, for the first one here, we have 3. There are no clear or ending points. When I focus on ending points, and I will refer to the meaning, I can deduce that I speak about the fact that there is no starting or ending point in a network learning environment. For example, you can start in any node, from any node you prefer, and you can decide when and how much you are going to learn. And of course, here this is an open atmosphere of learning environment, and here also we accept the fact that we can learn even when you are old, and we cannot put an end to learning. The second word here, everyone can start in their own net node and in whatever direction. And if I say they can start and they can, of course I need another verb here, and the verb that I have in my list is progress. So they can progress in whatever direction as far as they please. In the notes, if I have the notes, which means I have a noun here. So what's missing can be an adjective, since the adjective comes just before the noun, and since I have two adjectives left. The two words left are adjectives, but I have limited and infinite. So which one shall I choose? Of course, I have to refer to the meaning here. In the notes of the internet surface, the information potential they contain is multiplied. When I speak about multiplied information potential, I cannot speak of limited nodes. Then, of course, I'm going to speak of infinite nodes, because I can, as I said earlier, I can have a choice to move in whatever direction, to learn whenever I want or whatever I like. And I can put a limit to my education whenever I prefer. Right. In the end, we are going to get the following paragraph. Nowadays, the three model has three largely replaced by the metaphor of the net and the network. There are no clear starting or ending points in a network. I'm checking my paragraph to make sure that I've put the right words in the right places, and this is very important to check your exercise when you finish it. Everyone can start in their own net node and progress in whatever direction as far as they please. In the infinite nodes of the net surface, the information potential they contain is multiplied. Yes. Right. Care and share. You are going to express your opinion. You are going to start by I think that, if you like, I believe, or just explain and justify your opinion and speak about your own, for example, experience. Do all people accept this new wave? This new wave, which means the cyber education, and is the attitude of people who tried it positive or negative? And to be able to decide, we then sent an email to shahira@hotmail.fr to express your opinion. And this what happened. I received the following emails. 4 emails that you are going to read and complete the following table. You are going to find the right attitude of the people who wrote the emails or sent the emails, the justification, and the techniques used to express their opinion. Now let's move to the first email. It's sent by James and Sarah Carrigan, and they think that, you read the following email, we do believe that the clearest advantages of online learning are the numerous options for the storing, transferring, and multiplying of information. A great amount of information can be conveyed quickly and inexpensively. Pay attention. If you want to decide or to grasp the attitude of the person who wrote this email, we have to focus on the words, and we have to focus also on the justification they relied on. Now, look at the following parts. Advantages. And we have, for the storing, we have also other information, other words that have positive meaning, like convey the information conveyed quickly and inexpensively. When I say inexpensively, which means they are cheap and we don't have to pay too much money to get related to a network and to study through the network environment, in the networking environment. Now, so we can deduce from the beginning, from the words used here, that we have a positive attitude. But what's the justification that he relies on to express his opinion? Right, you can start with the first one here, is the ability to get numerous options for the storing, this part, numerous options for the storing, for transferring and multiplying of information. So this is the first advantage that we can get from this new wave, as I said earlier, or this technology that's used. Now, the second part here is the amount of information can be conveyed quickly and inexpensively. So you can see that there is quite a great part which is in yellow, and here to prove that they managed to focus on the right justifications to express their opinion, and that's necessary when we want to convince someone of our attitude. Now, for the second email, let's go back to the table that we've seen earlier. So let's get the answer first. The attitude for the first email is, yes, positive. And for the second email, we are going to see if it's the same thing. The list of difficulties we complain about, for instance, are abundance of information, delay in replies, and health hazards, like eye strain and tension in the neck from long-term computer work. Now, Ghazi sent this email to express his opinion. And what I'd like you to do now is to do the same thing as I've done earlier. Try to find the key words or the words he relied on to express his opinion, and try to find the right justification. The first one, we have the word complain, to complain about something. And is there another word that's going to help me find the right attitude? We find the word hazards, eye strain, and we find also the word tension. And these words can be used mainly to show that there is something one is suffering from, or he's not really convinced of its necessity, such as to complain. And we complain about something when we are not satisfied and we think that it's useless maybe. But here also we have hazards and eye strain, which lets us think of the negative attitude. And what about the justification he used? He said, for instance, which means he's going to give some examples. Abundance of information. The second one is delay in replies and health hazards. And he gave some examples of hazards like, and he relies on another word to give some examples like eye strain and tension. Right. Now, from the previous page and from the previous email and this email, we can deduce that there is a different attitudes, and in the second email we have a negative attitude. Now, we had two examples. One is positive and the other one is a negative attitude. Now, I'd like you to focus on the third part, and you are going to the third email and decide by yourselves whether the attitude is positive or negative. I was skeptical, which means doubtful, and a little shy when I enrolled in my first online course last year. Now, I'm an eager participant in a young adult literature class, and I often get to know the teacher and students better than in my traditional classes. We can deduce here that he starts from his own experience, and he just tries to show the difference between the idea, the attitude that he's got in the beginning, and then how it changed when he just participated in this computer network. Now, the first one is, the first word, of course, is I enrolled in my in the first online course, and then here he becomes an eager participant in this literature class, which means there is a change in this attitude, and it's positive now. Which means you can deduce the attitude here is, yes, it's positive. And in the fourth email, in a computer which is sent by NISAF, in a computer conference about racism, I got perspectives from students in New York and Philadelphia I'd never heard before. I live in a small town and we don't get very many people. Getting on the internet and thinking these people are thousands of miles away from me and I get to talk to them, that's really cool. When she says that's really cool, which means she's satisfied, she's amazed by this experience. And of course, when someone is amazed by the experience, he's happy and he thinks it's something that everyone should try or should enroll in this in virtual schools. And in this way, we can deduce that here we have a positive attitude. Now, the last one, the email 4, is positive. Okay. Now, what do you think of the online courses? Is it necessary for all the schools to enroll in this new environment of new networking environment? Is it essential for the students to be able to cooperate, to be able to communicate with the outside society, like the picture that we have here? These people who are logged onto their computers and maybe are asked to prepare a project in pairs or in groups. It's a cyber project, and then they are going to send it to their teachers and their mailboxes and then get the feedback. Now, this is what I'd like you to think about for a moment. I'm not playing and forgetting about the lesson. No, I'm learning. I'm learning patience. I'm learning to respect the rules. And I'm learning to reach my objective. My objective is to kill this one. Right. And in order to kill him, I have to rely on this set of domino pieces, and each one is tied to the other one in a way that's giving the first one is going to affect this piece, and it's going to let it fall, and of course I have to kill this one. Right. Now this is exactly like a piece of writing that I have here, and my purpose in a piece of writing is to reach my objective. Now my objective can be to inform someone. It can be to complain. My objective can be to entertain someone, to criticize, to narrate, to describe, persuade someone, encourage someone. So different objectives, and it's not easy to reach our objective. Yes, pay attention. What you have to do is patience and also be able to understand what we have to do exactly. Look at the following subject. As a representative of virtual schools of LT Studio Limited, United Kingdom, you were in charge of encouraging more schools to enroll in this company. So you wrote the following advert. I received the following advert from a pupil, and what I have to do now is to check if it's correct, in terms of, the order of the sentences, if it leads him to reach his objective, or if there is any misleading part or any mistake, any problem, then I have to find it. You are going to help me to do this, please. Now, in the first part, I have to read this piece of writing. Virtual schools provide a unique, fully managed web environment designed specifically for the education sector. Schools and colleges are able to utilize their virtual school to improve open and secure communications among teachers, pupils, and parents. The computer can restore information quickly. The virtual school will enhance existing relationships with the family of schools by enabling all to benefit from the sharing of resources. Videotaping of virtual school video conferences is strictly not allowed due to legal issues such as jurisdiction. To comment or ask a question about virtual schools or for any further directions, please email us at the following address. Right, look at this piece of writing carefully. I noticed when I read there are parts which are really misleading and don't help me reach my objective. Can you find them? Okay, I can help you. I noticed that there is one part that's hindering my progress. It doesn't allow me to progress. I noticed also that there is a part that's misleading, which means it leads me towards another objective. And of course, I don't want to deviate from my right objective. And the third problem that I noticed here is that there is a missing part. And finally, if there is a missing part, I'm not going to be able to kill this one. Now, I'd like you to help me find the three parts. Okay, the first part is videotaping of virtual school video conferences is strictly not allowed due to logical issues such as jurisdiction. Can you decide which one of these here is a problem? Now pay attention. If we speak about encouraging someone to do something, for example here, to encourage schools to enroll in virtual schools, is it possible to speak about strictly not allowed and jurisdiction? I think this is going to be to frighten these schools and not encourage them to attend or to enroll in this virtual school. And of course here we have to change to avoid using these words that have negative connotation to be able to convince the schools rather than frighten them or warn them. My purpose here is to warn these people, which leads me to another objective, and not to encourage them. What I have to do here is just to adjust this sentence and to express it differently by focusing on the benefits rather than the difficulties someone faces when he gets this information from the internet. For example, I'm going to change this by saying, we offer the ability to restrict access and publishing rights to authorized users only. When I say offer, here of course it